doctor of chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And we are here and we are trying. I tell you, we're just trying to get connected. And there's some things just some issues going on back there that been trying to work with. Don't know what's going on, but we're trying to get connected. And I think we got connected to us. I apologize to all my radio listeners about the silence that we were just dealing with. This is, hey, it's life. It's life, and you just got to keep going. And sometimes it takes a little while to get it all lined up and working just like you want to. So hope you guys had a great day. We have had a great day. We've been busy all day long at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. Went to Littlefield, adjusted patients like we do on Tuesdays. And now we're back ready for the show. And it's great. We're live. We're live on social media. We're live on Facebook at the Rock Health and Wellness Centers. If you guys are listening to the show on the radio on 98.7 Walk by Faith, 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation, streaming on 987radio.com, or listening to us on the Live 365 app, and you want to go back and you want to get some of this, you want to get the show later on, then feel free to do that. Come back and see us. And on the either you can, a lot of times you can go to the Walk by Faith Facebook page, or you can catch us live on any of our social media pages, YouTube, X, Dr. Jason Clemmons at X. You can follow us on that page, or you can catch us at the Rock Health and Wellness Centers on Facebook. Because a lot of the stuff, a lot of the times we will use graphics on the show that you might be interested in and some pictures and stuff that or the writing that I use. I use a whiteboard here on the show that we can use through social media, but we don't have through the radio. And that's part of the challenge of doing the show. Just trying to get it to all work together, trying to get the sound, the video, the audio. I changed it up a little bit tonight. I'm hoping that it's clear. We'll see how it ends up being as far as the social media goes, but I've been trying to work through that video, audio, problems, but we're going to get it done. And if we get it done and then we have a great run for the next 15 or 20 years on the show, then this first year that we had to work through some things will be very minuscule. And that's kind of the way it happens with our health. If we take this first year, and sometimes in the first year of your health, you just have to get going. You just have to work at it. You just have to start to work through all the issues that go along with trying to have good health. And you'll start and you'll get frustrated and things don't go exactly the way you want them to. So you'll have to restart again and do it again, and then restart again and do it again. And it just goes, sometimes it's just a lot of work. It's just a lot of work to try to see your way through getting yourself to good health. But if you get some help and you get some people talking to you, trying to share the information with you, trying to share as much as they can with you, it's helpful. It's super helpful for me. I've got a whole group of people through Instagram, through Facebook, through my colleagues in chiropractic, through literature, through research and research articles. I've got a whole group of people out there that are helpful to me, and that is a team, and that's a team of healthcare providers, and I think, or not healthcare providers, a team of workers that provide healthcare information. And that's kind of what our show is about, is to provide that healthcare information so that you can make good decisions about your health, so that you can get as much out of life as possible. So I had a really good conversation with one of our listeners today. We were talking about this show, and we were talking about the struggles we were having sometimes that we have on the show, and we were talking about the real life implication of our choices. And we were talking about degeneration and whether or not that created pain or it didn't create pain. And it was a great example. It was a super great example. And if that listener is listening tonight, that's great. It appears that, like, we got kicked off again. Sorry for our social media people. Hang on one second, because I don't know um, if we're off again. Just it looks like I am, but I can't tell. This is really awkward. If we are, we'll just keep on going on social media. I'm not real sure. Um, I know you guys are like, man, this is the craziest show. I can't believe I watch it. Maybe it's entertaining. I mean, heck, you could say that it's entertaining. You could say it's like what is he doing? And that's one of the things that the guy said today. He's like, he's like, sometimes you have a hard time uh, carrying through on your thoughts, and I'm like, I do. Sometimes I have a really hard time carrying through on my thoughts, and um, um, is hang on, social media people, so because that's why I got a text, I got a radio deal. Um, yeah, so that's uh, it's crazy. It's really crazy. It's crazy. We're trying to bring you all this information, trying to get to you out there in the world and get to the radio people at the same exact time, and then get all these texts that's coming in from the radio people to see if we're even on the radio right now. Because it looks to me like through my software, we're not on the radio at all. I've got two softwares working right now. I got the one that I'm coming to you with on social media, and I got the one that I'm coming through the radio with, and I got two audio things with you. I hope you guys can hear me. Yeah, he says I'm off, so that's what I thought. So we'll try it again. We'll see if we get back on it. Um, and that's the third time. That's the third time since I logged on this at 5:54 because I couldn't get on until 5:54. Now I've been kicked off the radio three times. What are you going to do? You're going to get upset? What are you going to do with your sympathetic nervous system? Are you going to fire your sympathetic nervous system because you're getting upset about this radio show, about things that you can't control? That would be one option. I could get upset about this and I could start firing my sympathetic nervous system. And what did we talk about yesterday? Cardiovascular disease, cancer, and COPD have a direct tie into the increased sympathetic firing. If you increase sympathetic firing, you increase the chances of increasing your cancer, of getting cancer. So the question is, what am I going to do about this situation? And it sucks and it's stupid, and I know it's stupid on the when we're trying to do a show, but it it is it's just part of life, and you got to try to figure it out. You got to try to see if what you're how you're handling these situations, because I bet you do it as a parent. I know you do it as a dad. I bet you do it as a mom. I bet there's things that's going on with your kids today that you're stressed out about. And I know there's things that whether or not it's paying the bills, we're at the first of the month, or if it's whether or not you got the kids to wherever they were going, what camp they were going to, where guys going on vacation, where's the next place, has are we getting ready to go on vacation? You got another wedding to go to? That's what we got to dealing with. We got all kinds of weddings that we're dealing with. I just been to my fourth one this weekend. What are we going to wear? Are you dressed appropriate to what are we going to do at the wedding? Who's going to be there? Is there going to be somebody we don't like there? Are we going to be able to see family? How much is it going to cost to go? You know how those are all stressful events that we deal with. And if I can ever get this radio if I can ever get this radio show up and running, tonight. We're going to talk about how the chiropractic adjustment decreases sympathetic tone, and how the chiropractic adjustment, especially in the upper cervical region, can help decrease your stress response. And if we can't get it, we're still going to talk about it. It's just going to take me just a second longer because I'm trying to get. Um, yeah, it's yep, can't get it. Um, one more second. Let me send another. Um, all right. So let's get rid of this. Let's move along. So I don't need that, and I don't need that any longer, and I don't need this any longer. I think we got you. We got you tonight. We got that's what we got. We got us, and um, I don't know. Now they're trying to get me back on the radio. It's my last try. If this works, we'll do it. If this doesn't work, I'm not. I'll just have to kick them off tonight. I hate to kick them off because there's actually people. There's a few people that actually listen to the show. No, there's a bunch of y'all that listen to the show out there, and sometimes you're like, "This is really interesting. What goes on this show?" All right, they got me back. I think. Okay, everybody out there, we're back. It sounds like I think we're back. We'll try it one more time. If we lose it again, you guys will just kick it off into some music, and then we'll just go for it. Don't know what's happening, but just keeps disconnecting me from the radio. So let's get straight to it because we've missed the first 15 minutes of the show, and I've been trying to deal with it. So we'll go ahead. We'll move on and let's talk about it. So let's talk about what let I want to talk about the conversation I had today with one of our listeners. And one of our listeners was telling me that it was really interesting. He was telling me how he didn't understand what I was saying. And he was talking about the show, and he was talking about how it was hard for me to get my sentences together, and it was hard for me to flow a thought, and it was all that sort of thing. And I 100% agree. I 100% agree that this is hard to do, right? I 100% agree that I'm not really good at doing this right now. But I also am 100% agree that it's so important for me to do that I'm willing to do it poorly to get it out there to you to try to help someone live a better life. It's that important to me. Like this stuff right here is something that should have been done 20 years ago in my town. And it's 100% my fault. So am I going to let the poor quality or all of this jacked up stuff that we're dealing with and having to get interruptions and all that sort of thing, am I going to let that get in the way of trying to share the information with you? Absolutely not. I'm not going to do it. I don't care. I don't care if we get some sort of plaque for being the absolute worst show on all the internet. I don't care, because if you can figure out, maybe sometimes you got to fast forward to the end, but if you can figure out what I'm trying to say, I really do think it's valuable for you. I really do think it's valuable. And so what I want to talk about tonight, just the beginning stages of it, I just want to talk about the um, the degeneration. I want to talk about the difference. This person that's a listener of our show um, is a super fit individual, and he's a 76-year-old man, and he's a super fit individual, and he has very little pain, but he has lots of degeneration in his spine, and it's like, what? How does that work? How is it that a person can have very little pain, but they have lots of degeneration? And I want to go back and I want to talk about the two main components of when your spine gets degenerative. And I want to talk about it because what we've been talking about over the last couple of nights is the vagus nerve and heart rate variability, and how heart rate variability is an indicator whether you have good heart rate variability or poor heart rate variability. It's an indicator for cardiovascular disease, cancer, and COPD. Your heart rate variability can be measured. And last night we talked about an article from Neuroscience with Dr. Kent. And this is Research and Review Neuroscience, September 2017, Volume 1, Number 3, Heart Rate Variability to Assess the Changes in Autonomic Nervous System Function Associated with Vertebral Subluxation. So this is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about what you guys don't understand about chiropractic. We're talking about your spine and your vertebral subluxations causing sympathetic increase, causing an increase in fight or flight response inside your body, which is causing cancer, cardiovascular disease, anxiety, depression, acid reflux, irritable bowel, low testosterone, joint pain, all of those things that we deal with. All those things. And it goes back to, did you get checked for vertebral subluxation? Have you had your nervous system checked? And if you're a listener to the show and you come in and you bring your children with you and you set your children down in the waiting area or in the chair in my office, and you put yourself on the table and you leave your children sitting there, I wonder every single time, why do you do that? You know, when I was in chiropractic school, I used to drive my children more than an hour away. We lived in Carrollton, and Carrollton, Texas. I went to Parker College of Chiropractic in Dallas, and I used to drive all the way from Carrollton to Mesquite to go see Marsha Heikkinen, who was a pediatric chiropractor, to take my kids to get adjusted. We did that once a week while I was in chiropractic school. I drove more than the kids would fall asleep in the van. They were slobbering all over themselves and falling asleep and getting all sweaty and all that stuff. We'd have to park in the parking lot and get them all redressed and all that stuff. Caitlin was, she was one. Let's see, she was born in November 2000, and I went and we started chiropractic school in what was it? It was in January of 2002 is when I started chiropractic school. So Caitlin had just turned 1, which means Jacob was 4. So we took our kids all the way across there to get adjusted. Why do we do that? Why would I get children adjusted? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you take your child to a chiropractor? Like that, it doesn't make any sense unless you understand what a vertebral subluxation was. Because I got adjusted for 12 years from my first adjustment. My first adjustment was in the fall of 1987. And it wasn't until I went to work for my brother-in-law in his chiropractic office in March of 2000 that I actually understood what chiropractic was. So I went from 1987 sometime in the fall of 1987 to March of 2000, not knowing what chiropractic was, thinking I lived a life just like all the rest of the human beings. When I got a headache, I took a Tylenol. When I got when I got acid reflux, I took a Rolaids. I took a flu shot one year like an idiot. Like all those things that was part of everyday life, and it was so common that it was like every other human being that I knew did exactly the same thing. I didn't know anybody that, except for my crazy brother-in-law, I didn't know anybody that didn't do all that stuff. And I didn't understand it. And if you would have said, what is chiropractic? I would have said, I don't know. You get adjusted and you feel better. Okay, well, let's fast forward now. Let's fast forward that concept. If you get adjusted and you feel better, from 1987 all the way till now, and let's talk about the science and the biomechanics and the neurology of why you feel better when you get adjusted. Because it's not voodoo. It's not some sort of pixie dust. It's science and it's neurology and it's heart rate variability and it's parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system function. It's fight or flight. It's real stuff, right? So one of the things I wanted to cover tonight, which we've covered before, is degeneration in your spine. When you lose, and this is a very mild case of degeneration, it's not massive, but the upper part of that is is not so bad. As you move down, there's a little bit of degeneration in this neck. Okay, what does that mean? You ever worn out a pair of tennis shoes? Have you ever got a brand new pair of tennis shoes and you wore them out? Okay, your tennis shoes deteriorated over time, right? How did they deteriorate? What caused them to deteriorate? Well, either it was too much wear and tear on your tennis shoes, right? That could do it. You could wear them out and wear them out and wear them out and wear them out and wear them out, right? You're just getting lots of wear and tear. But what also goes along with it? What also breaks down the leather and the different parts of a tennis shoe? Yeah, I think I've lost it again, and I'm not going back and doing that again. Okay, what wears out a tennis shoe? The sweat from your foot wears out take your shoes off right now. If you got a pair of shoes that you've had for a long period of time, take these shoes off right now and look at your insoles. Pull those insoles out of the bottom of your feet and tell me if there's not some wear and tear going on those insoles, right? What else breaks down those tennis shoes? Stepping in ponds and puddles, stepping in puddles of water, getting your shoes wet, right? What is it about the water that's breaking down the material in the tennis shoe? It's your sweaty feet, and it's the dirty, muddy water that's also causing that. If you get any gasoline on your tennis shoe, that's going to really start to change it too. If you get grass, if you're mowing the grass and you got all and doing the weed eating and you got all that grass that's on your tennis shoe and you're wearing it out, those two things, both of those things are contributing factors to wearing out your tennis shoe. It's the it's the mechanics. It's not just the movement, but it is the movement and the chemistry. It's those two things together. And this person did not understand. This person did not understand they didn't understand that. And they said they listened to my show, and I was like, I don't. Okay, I got to do a better job. I got to do a better job of explaining that on the show so that it makes sense. Because I don't think people understand it. And it's like, what difference does it make if I take my fish oil? It matters because of this degenerative issue that's going on in your spine. It's not just abnormal movement. This particular spine that we're looking at right here has a loss of the cervical curve. There's a loss. The red line's supposed to be on the green line. And if the red line's not on the green line, and then what we've got what's called forward head posture. We've got the distance from the top of the red line to the green line is called forward head posture. Now, forward head posture is going to change the biomechanics of the joint. It's going to change the biomechanics of the disc itself. There are actually there. And this disc are getting compression forces on the disc because of the forward head posture. The compression is moving down, and the compression that's moving down is causing a change in the tissue of the disc itself. So we have an abnormal movement pattern because the head has gone forward. We now have an abnormal movement pattern that's causing a biomechanical life movement problem in the disc itself. But it is not only the abnormal movement pattern. And you say, well, why did your head go forward? Well, there's lots of reasons that your head can go forward. One of the reasons that your head can go forward is because your frontal lobe is not working. Your brain is not firing, which is putting increased tension on your SCM muscle, sternocleidomastoid muscle, that big muscle that's right there, that's coming from the base of your skull down to your sternum, which is pulling your head forward. Now, if it pulls your head forward and you've got forward head posture, you are putting abnormal pressure on the disc, which you're increasing the problem with the disc. Now, you say, what difference does it make? Okay, I'll show you in just a second. But what also happens at the same time is the chemistry matters. And I used the example today with the guy that was listening to it. He said, that I was talking to, he said, I heard you say that, but I really don't understand what you meant. And I was like, well, that's my fault. That's my fault because I didn't throw it and get it caught. It's my responsibility to throw it and get it caught. It's not just my responsibility to throw it. It's not my responsibility to explain this to you and then you not understand it. And then that's the end of my responsibility. That's not the way I was raised. It's my responsibility to explain this as many times as it takes in as many different ways as it takes for you to understand it so that you can get it, so that your neck works better, so that your brain works better, right? So it's super important that we get these discs to be healthy. Now, this particular person does 100 push-ups and 150 sit-ups every day. This particular person has very, very little body fat, and he is built like a solid tank. And he's 76 years old, and he is super built. Now, I'm not looking at his x-rays. I'm just saying that this person is super built, and he has almost no pain in his spine whatsoever. But he's got lots of degeneration in his spine. And it is exactly what we talk about time after time after time is that degeneration is different than arthritis. Arthritis is inflammation of the joint. Inflammation is a functional term, not a structural term. Inflammation is how your body is functioning. You know what he said to me? He said, sometimes I get this heel spur on my heel and it kills me. And then sometimes it goes away and it doesn't bother me at all. And I'm like, that's not true. The heel spur never goes away. The pain involved in the heel spur can come and go if there's no inflammation on the tendon pulling against the bone. If there's no inflammation, your heel spur is not going to hurt. You're still going to have a bone spur because the bone spur didn't reabsorb itself. It didn't go away. It's just the inflammation on it. So that part is the functional part. And that functional part comes with the chemistry of our body. That functional part, I had one of my ladies today tell me she bought a bag of chips this week. And I said, well, how do you feel? And she said, I feel horrible because she's been really, really concentrating on not eating any bad food. She's been really trying to control her carbs for a while. And she said, I bought a bag of chips. And I was, it's like, why'd you do that for? How do you feel? And she said, I feel horrible. Right? So why? Because she put fuel in her body that's incongruent with health. She changed the chemistry of the internal environment. And when she changed the chemistry of the internal environment, she felt the increase in inflammation, which I wish we could really get that down. I wish together we could get down the idea that increasing inflammation is increasing our immune response. I really wish we could tie those two things together. I wish we could understand that when you are inflamed, you are flaring up your immune response. It's the initial stages, right? So there's an abnormal chemistry and there's an abnormal movement to degeneration. It's if you are super fit, you can hold your spine and to the point where you don't create the inflammation in the joint. If you're super fit, and I mean super fit, you lose your fitness, you lose your ability to hold. He does those, he said, I don't know what they're called, but I lay on the floor and I have that little wheel and I roll flat out and I bring myself all the way back. I do those too with my 100 push-ups and my 150 setups. And I do that little rolling wheel. Yeah, and you're working on your core. And so what is happening is he's got very good efficiency, extremely good efficiency from his brain to his muscle. The firing pattern from the brain to the muscle is highly efficient in this individual, which allows him, his brain, unknowing to himself, which allows his brain to hold really tightly onto his vertebra, which now controls how those vertebrae are moving, and it decreases the inflammation in the vertebra. If I'm holding this speaker, and I mean like I got a hold of it right here, and it's nice and tight, then I can control this speaker any direction I want it to go. I can move it around, and it's not gonna shake loose. It's not gonna move in some sort of direction that I don't want it to, because I've got a hold of it. That's fitness. Fitness is the strength that your body has to hold your joints. And if your joints are holding properly, you won't have inflammation. And the same exact thing goes on with your knee. How many times have you heard this knee thing that's bone on bone? It's my knee's bone on bone, and I've got arthritis in my knee, and that's why my knee hurts. Your knee hurts because your knee's not functioning properly, regardless of whether it's bone on bone. Because why is it that this can be bone on bone? Let me see if I've got another one, because I've got some. Let me see what that. No. Let me see if I can find one right, just real quick, because I've got a bunch of them. I just can't find them. But they're the degenerative part. Now I'm not going to waste that much time looking for it. Y'all, have y'all noticed how these people come in? They just jack up your screens. They give you all kinds of different options. Those kids mess with your screens, and it's like, dude, could you please stop? Just please stop messing with my screens. I'm not that advanced. I'm 53 years old. I'm doing the best I can just to get through this day. And then there's all kinds of messing with the screens and degeneration. One more try. Nah, that's all right. Let's get past it. Because I want to get to the articles of the whole thing. All right, but just understand that degeneration in your spine is movement and chemistry, those two things together, and understand that chemistry means you're out of balance in your omega 6 3 ratio. That's one of the things. You're out of balance with your vitamins. You're out of balance with your processed food. You're out of balance with too much sugar. Like, that's bad chemistry. If you've got too much sugar, you've got bad chemistry. So, all of those things are the chemistry that's going on inside your body. Okay? So, let's get to these articles, because what Dr. Kent was talking about, hang on. There we go. If I can get to these articles. Okay, this is the heart rate variability yesterday that we were talking about. Assesses the change in the autonomic nervous system function associated with vertebral subluxation. Vertebral subluxation is the malposition or the malfunction of a vertebra in your spine. Okay, the subluxation is interference in the nervous system. So the vertebral subluxation is the interference in the nervous system caused from a vertebrae. And you've got 24 vertebrae in your spine. You've got 7 in your neck. You've got 12 in your thoracics, where all your ribs are attached to, and you got 5 in your lumbar spine. So there's 12 there. Now you have an occiput at the top. You have a sacrum at the bottom. You got 2 pelvis that are going on there. But we're talking about vertebral subluxation in that pathway. And vertebral subluxation is vertebral subluxation changes the heart rate variability, which decreases parasympathetic activity and increases sympathetic activity. And decreasing parasympathetic activity decreases your ability to calm yourself down and rest and relax. And increasing your sympathetic activity causes your body to fire in its fight or flight response too much. And that's what our whole article said the other night, right? So now let's switch it for a second, because let's move it over here and let's look at the next article. If I can find the next article. I want you to see the next article. Okay. Man, hang on. So I'm just gonna get to this article. All right, this is the one I was trying to find for you. Sorry it took me so long. But this article here is the suboccipital decompression enhances heart rate variability indices of cardiac control in healthy subjects. This was the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, which, you know what I think about that sentence. That's a bunch of hogwash, but someone bought into it, right? It's not alternative and it's not complementary to jack squat. It has nothing to do with that. So it's health and it's neurology and it's the way it works. So it's not alternative. It's alternative if you want to sell it that way, but we're not getting into that. Volume 2013, volume 19, number 2, pages 92 to 96. This is from the University of North Texas Health Science Center. And it's talking about heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the variation in time intervals between heartbeats. It is usually largely under the control of the autonomic nervous system. So, heart rate variability, let me share this picture with you. That's your heartbeat, right? We drew that picture the other night, and you guys know what that looks like. You've seen that before. Okay, what heart rate variability means is it means the the distance from this point to this point, if you measure the distance from that point to that point, and then you measure the distance from that one to the next one, and then from that one to the next one, and from that one to the next one, you will find out that those distances are not the same. They vary in length. They're variable. One heartbeat to the next heartbeat has variation. It's not identical. It's not one heartbeat to the next heartbeat to the next heartbeat. That's not how it works. How it works is there's variation, and it's variable based on your sympathetic and your parasympathetic activity. So, I don't know what just happened to my. I don't know what just happened to it, but that variation right there is a sign of your autonomic nervous system. Whenever you breathe in, you've got oxygen inside your body. Now that you have oxygen inside your body, you're going to get sympathetic increase. You're going to get an increase in heart rate. It's going to beat faster. So those spikes right there are going to move closer together because your brain is saying, "Hey, dude, you got oxygen in there. Spread it around quickly. Pump it around." And then when you breathe out, you don't have any oxygen. You've just gotten rid of that oxygen. So your brain says, "No, dude, slow down your heart rate. Slow that down." Parasympathetic now fires. Now, parasympathetic fires and slows down your heart rate. It changes the neurochemistry, acetylcholine versus epinephrine, and that's slowing that heart rate down. So what we're doing right there by looking at heart rate variability is what they've kind of discovered is that you can get an idea of if the person's autonomic nervous system is responding properly. You want variability in the heart rates. That's what you want. You don't want something that's the same, that's not really varying very well, because that otherwise you're not functioning properly. So what this article with Giles and those guys is talking about is the parasympathetic influence lengthens heart rate variability via the release of acetylcholine by the vagus nerve. That's what we just talked about, right? Sympathetic influence shortens the heart rate variability via the release of epinephrine and norepinephrine. So we know that. Okay, vagal and sympathetic nerve activity constantly interact. Under resting conditions, vagal tone prevails. So your vagus nerve firing from your intestines into your brain is setting the homeostasis or balance. It's contributing to homeostasis or balance inside your body. Well, what these guys did is they wanted to know, what if I adjust you? What will happen if this is an osteopathic manipulative treatment, the osteopaths and the chiropractors, and these guys are doing it just a little bit different, focusing on the upper cervical spine and theorized to affect the function of the vagus nerve and thereby influence the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. So what they did is the study was designed to determine the acute effects of upper cervical spine manipulation on cardiac autonomic control as measured by heart rate variability. It used 19 healthy young adult subjects. They underwent cervical osteopathic manipulation and a sham manipulation. Now they could do that because here's what they did. They did some soft tissue work. There was no popping of the spine. They did some soft tissue work, and they did some cross friction of the suboccipital muscles, and then they did an occipital lift. They laid the patient on their back. They put their fingertips right at the base of their skull on both sides, and then they lifted, they pulled on the occiput, which is your skull. They pulled on the back of the skull, and just to see if that would change any of their outcomes. And what they found out was it did. It changed the outcomes. The anatomical relationship of the efferent vagus nerves, meaning vagus nerve firing from the brain to the body, um, to the the anatomical relationship of the efferent vagus nerve to the musculoskeletal structures at the occiput lends credence to the hypothesis that osteopathic manipulative treatment at this location, such as suboccipital decompression, could affect vagal functions. So they did that, and what I'll just get to the end of it, um, and see. The changes in frequency domain indices of heart rate variability were consistent with an enhanced parasympathetic control associated with the treatment. Okay, what does that mean? That means that the changes that they saw, they hooked these guys up and they did it's like a 6 minute EKG to collect data about what was going on. They did a 6 minute, and then they did this treatment, and they measured the heart rate variability. And what they found out was that this treatment was induced inside the body. It induced the um, parasympathetic activity of the nervous system, which caused the heart rate to slow down because what was causing the heart rate to speed up? The heart rate was speeding up because of the changes in autonomics, the autonomic nervous system, which if you leave your body at resting rate, your heart rate's going to just go up anyway, because what you have to do constantly is calm your heart rate down. If your heart is left unchecked, you will just go right to a resting heart rate that's well over 100. So, and I don't remember exactly the number, but it goes up. And so it's your calming effect. It's your parasympathetic activity that brings it down. But a subluxation interferes with it interferes with that sympathetic parasympathetic activity, which causes you to lose some of that parasympathetic rest and recover, which causes an increased amount of sympathetic firing. A subluxation is basically a threat to the brain. It's a way that your brain actually feels the threat. And that when your brain is feeling a threat, it kicks in the right side sympathetic nervous system, and you get that fight or flight response. And so what do you get? You get increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, decreased digestive function, decreased immune system function, increased spinal tone in some places, lack of coordination and balance, your inability to sleep, insomnia kicks in, all those sort of things, right? Lack of concentration in the left hemisphere, can't focus, you get anxiety and depression, you get all of those things that happen when you're subluxated, when you have interference in your nervous system, when you have pressure on your nervous system that disrupts the way that your brain is receiving information from your spine, because your spine, your vertebra are either in the wrong position, not misaligned, but in the wrong position, or not moving properly. That's what a subluxation is. The subluxation is causing increased sympathetic activity. And if you go back to the last 2 nights about what we watched on the show, what you find out is increased sympathetic activity is associated with cardiovascular disease, cancer, and COPD. That's from our guys at Ohio State University, right? If you're subluxated and you have vertebral subluxation, that's why it's not good for you to have vertebral subluxation. And who in the world checks people for vertebral subluxation? The only people that I know of that do that are old-timey osteopaths that still have some sort of foundational premise to what they're doing, that haven't completely sold out to the medical establishment, or the chiropractor. The chiropractor from the beginning in 1895, D.D. Palmer in 1895 with chiropractic, it was talking about the tone of the body. He didn't know all the things that we know today because he didn't have all the technology that we have today. He didn't know about heart rate variability back then, like we know now. And what B.J. Palmer talked about was upper cervical adjusting. B.J. was the whole hole-in-one upper cervical adjusting guy. And why? Because of the subluxation, the interference in the nervous system that caused us to stay in sympathetic firing for too long. And if we get adjusted, it decreases that sympathetic tone. I know that for a fact because in chiropractic school, I was hooked up to the leads in the physiology lab that they did the research on. And I know exactly what I was thinking in the moment that Dr. Stern punched me in the side of my head. And I knew exactly what I was thinking with my shirt off in the middle of my class. And Dr. Stern, boom, adjusted me. And I was threatened. My educated mind was threatened, but my innate intelligence was not. My innate intelligence said that was parasympathetic. Decrease my heart rate, decrease my blood pressure with that cervical adjustment. And that's what chiropractic is. That's what we're trying to do with keeping. We don't want your joints to degenerate. We want your joints to function like they're supposed to your entire life. But if you change your chemistry and you change your biomechanics, and you lose your fitness and you lose your movement and you eat too much sugar and too many omega-6 fatty acids and you cause this inflammatory problem, you're going to start to create vertebral subluxation, which is going to increase fight or flight response in your brain. That's the point. That's the show. That's really what I wanted to talk about tonight. I'm sorry it took so long to get started, but so what can you do about it? What you can do is get adjusted no matter where you live. Go to your chiropractor and have your chiropractor evaluate you. I had a patient last night send me a text. She was trying to reach out to us to get into the office because and she wanted an adjustment. And I was like, okay, our first day is $195 and we do a bunch of stuff on our first day. Why? Because I'm trying to figure out where you have subluxation. I'm trying to figure out where your body's not functioning properly. What side of your brain is not functioning properly? Is your brain functioning properly? How are all that? What's going on? And this particular person has already met $2,600 towards a deductible. And it's only June. Yeah, I haven't met a deductible on an insurance premium in my entire life that I know of. And I guarantee I haven't met a deductible on an insurance premium. I haven't even, I can't even tell you if I've ever, I know for a fact in the last 24 years, we have not met a deductible on an insurance premium. I've only been to the doctor twice, I think, or 3 times in the last 24 years. Where are you spending your money? You're spending your money on sick care instead of spending your money on health care. So what do you want out of your health care? Because you can keep spending your money in your sick care model and you can stay sick. Today is 27 months since I've had a piece of bread. Today is the anniversary. It's 27 months, March 2nd, 2022. 23, 24. Yeah, here we go. 27 months. Hadn't had a cookie, hadn't had a bowl of ice cream, none of that stuff, right? You can do the same exact thing. You can get your body healthier as you age than you did up until whatever age you are. And it doesn't matter if you're 70 something years old or 80 something years old or 30 something years old. If you've got vertebral subluxation, you want to find out and you want to find somebody who can address those vertebral subluxations. And what causes subluxation? Physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. If you can handle that better, you'll decrease your subluxations, you'll calm your autonomic nervous system down, you'll increase your chances to live a healthier life. And that's what it's all about. At least I hope it is. That's what we're trying to do. So you can go out there and do your thing. so you can get out there in the world and shine your light bright into the world and swing your sword and do all that stuff that people do out there. Hey, thanks. I think it went a little bit over, but it took a little time to get started. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6, and hopefully we'll be back on the radio. But if not, we'll be right here on social media. You guys, if you like the show, like the page. I would appreciate that. Send us a comment. Say something about us. Give us some sort of comment that helps us get out there. And other than that, you guys have a great night, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for watching the show.